The terrible story of the body that remained on Everest since 1996. High in the treacherous peaks of Mount Everest, a haunting tale unfolds, one that speaks of both triumph and tragedy, of human endurance pushed to its limits. It is a story that has gripped the imagination of adventurers and mountaineers alike for nearly 3 decades, serving as a chilling reminder of the unforgiving nature of the world's highest summit. This is the tale of the body that remained on Everest since 1996, a testament to the perils faced by those who dare to conquer the mighty mountain. Delve into the tragic tale of Scott Fischer.
This is going to be the biggest mountain on Earth for a long time. And there's going to be more and more people visiting it all the time.
A renowned mountaineer who disappeared on Everest in 1996. Discover the circumstances surrounding his disappearance and the shocking discovery of his body years later. This may be the last interview of Scott Fischer before he disappeared on that mountain behind Everest near the summit.
My mission statement would be to turn people onto the mountains, and if someone's goal is to climb Mount Everest.
It's unknown why one of the strongest and most experienced mountaineers in the world disappeared that day. Amidst the beauty and grandeur of the Himalayas, where the heavens seem to touch the earth, a grim reminder of human mortality endures. The presence of the abandoned body serves as a haunting reminder that no victory on Everest comes without sacrifice, no conquest without consequence. This is the tale of the body that defied time, becoming an unwitting symbol of both triumph and tragedy on the world's tallest peak. There is a select group of people in the world who have gazed at the earth from its 2 highest points, Everest and K2. Scott Fischer, a 40-year-old native of Michigan who settled in Seattle, is one of them. Fischer had made a living out of mountaineering and contributed his adventurousness to a variety of charitable causes. On Friday, May 10, 1996, a severe and sudden storm trapped several climbers high on Everest as they were descending from the summit. This event would go on to become the deadliest single tragedy in the history of mountain climbing, with a total of 8 people perishing. One of them was the renowned Seattle climbing guide, Scott Fischer. Only in 2010 was his body found, near the balcony of Mount Everest. Fischer was also the first American to climb Lhotse, the world's 4th highest peak in Nepal, and among the third party of Americans to summit K2. With his trekking business, Mountain Madness, Fischer became one of the first mountaineers to offer guided treks to many peaks, including those of the world's biggest mountains. In truly American style, Fischer may also be the first serious mountain climber who was turned onto the sport by television.
En av de kommersiella expeditionerna.
If Scott feels unhappy about pointing the finger and being a policeman, I will be the policeman.
Inspired by a program he saw on his local public television station in New Jersey when he was 14. He spent the next 2 years taking climbing courses and moved west when he graduated high school. He and his wife, Jeannie Price, moved to Seattle in 1982, where they had 2 children. To his friends and compatriots, Fish was more than the sum of his adventures. He was a strong, determined climber who inspired others. He was definitely charismatic, and he really motivated people.
Yeah, so I decided to come here and take some photographs and carry some memories home. And
As a guide, he took great pleasure in getting his clients to the top. Scott E. Fischer founded the Mountain Madness Company in 1984 to allow his customers to reach the peaks of the highest mountains in the world. It cost $50,000 each to go up there with him. Fischer was concerned not only with making the summit but also with keeping the world's great mountains clean. In 1994, he headed up the Everest Environmental Project, one of the first credible efforts to collect debris that had been gathering for 40 years. His team cleared out 250 oxygen bottles and 5,000 pounds of garbage from the mountain. This was Fischer's 5th trek to Everest.
Of blocks of ice the size of huge buildings, separated by crevasses that just go forever.
Just before he left, he told a reporter from the Seattle Weekly that he was certain he would return. "It doesn't count if you don't make it back down," he said. To many mountaineers in Seattle and around the world who feel his loss, his 5th climb up Everest counted very much. Scott Fischer was experienced in keeping all the variables at bay while leading expeditions to the top of the world, guiding a team of Mountain Madness clients, assisted by Neil Beadleman and Anatoly Bukrev, 2 of the most elite climbers in the world. Fischer timed this ascent with consideration for the weather records on Everest. The week of May 5, 12 has historically offered the best conditions for climbing. After weeks at base camp and days of slow climbing with time to acclimate to the extreme altitude, The top of Everest at 28 feet is in the jet stream, where there is a third of the oxygen available at sea level. Fischer took advantage of clear weather on Thursday, May 9th, to make a summit bid. Fischer died on May 10, 1996, during one of the darkest days of mountaineering on Everest.
40-year-old team leader Scott Fischer is still missing. A rescue team climbs out into life-threatening conditions to find him.
On that day, Fischer, Anatoly Bukhiri, and Neil Beetleman drove 8 of their clients to reach the summit of Everest. During the descent, the team was hit by a strong snowstorm. All the mountaineers managed to reach Camp IV at 7,900 meters, with the exception of Fischer. Fischer, who had reached the summit at about 3:45 p.m., had considerable difficulties in the descent. With him was the shepherd chief Lopsong Yunro, but just below the south peak, he was unable to continue and convinced Lopsong to descend without him. Lopsong went down alone, hoping to be able to send someone else with extra oxygen to help Fischer down.
There was. Instead of fixing ropes, Fischer's Sherpa Lopsong had quietly taken on a different mission.
Bukhiri, after coming down with his clients in the morning, made several attempts to reach Fischer. However, he was forced to turn back after the second attempt due to the weather. Even though he did not find Fischer, he still managed to save many people who were difficult to recover. Finally, around 7 a.m. on May 11th, Bukhiri managed to reach Fischer's position, but unfortunately, it was already too late. It was impossible for Bukhiri to bring his companion's body back downstream. He secured the backpack over his face and left it on the ledge where Fischer lay. Then he took his camera, his ice axe, and his favorite penknife. The latter would be delivered upon the return of the expedition by mountaineer Beetleman to Fischer's 9-year-old son, who was waiting for his father's return to Seattle. Only in May 2010 was Fischer's body found on the mountain at over 8,000 meters.
Scott Fischer lies some 1,800 vertical feet below. Beck Weathers and Yasko Namba.
The discovery brought closure to his family and friends, but also served as a somber reminder of the risks and perils of mountaineering. Scott Fischer's story is a tragic one, highlighting the dangers faced by mountaineers who dare to conquer the world's highest peak. His passion for the sport, his dedication to guiding others, and his commitment to preserving the mountains for future generations are all part of his legacy. While his disappearance and the subsequent discovery of his body on Everest in 2010 may forever remain a haunting mystery, his impact on the world of mountaineering will not be forgotten. In conclusion, the terrible story of the body that remained on Everest since 1996 revolves around Scott Fischer, a skilled and experienced mountaineer who met his tragic fate during a storm while descending from the summit of Everest. His disappearance shocked the mountaineering community, and the subsequent discovery of his body years later added to the tragedy. Fischer's contributions to the sport, his charismatic personality, and his dedication to environmental efforts will always be remembered. The story serves as a reminder of the inherent risks and challenges involved in mountaineering and the profound impact it can have on individuals and their loved ones.